Oh my goodness, he is back. It's almost like there was a breakup and we weren't allowed to talk together for like a bunch of years, kind of see each other here and there, kind of in passing. And finally, Andy and I are back together. Rivals and On Three have merged, which means, Andy, you and I are a thing again. Good to see you.
I know. I did not like being in competition with you. That's not fun. That brought me no joy. So this is much better. And the text that I got on that first day from you, from Larry Williams at Tiger Illustrated, the great Clemson site, like getting to know I was going to get to be with you guys again is just amazing.
Okay, it is because when you how long have you been in On Three now, Andy?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, and so you got to 2 years, and then we can't really bring Andy on the show, and vice versa. All these years of friendships and partnerships that date back to.
We got to tell them where we go back to.
What Andy and I. We're older now, but we look good. We age good.
That's right. We have aged well, but we're old. Yes, that's true.
Yes. No. And we were once high school writers together at the Tampa Tribune. You can't look it up because the paper no longer exists, right? So you have to take our word on it.
Anwar had the better region. He had Northwest Hillsborough County, which is really nice and bougie and like, little New Tampa, little Tampa Palms.
Little Carolina.
You get some good recruits at Tampa Bay Tech. Yeah. I was in West Pasco County.
Nothing. You had one quarterback who came out and the guy that went to Florida State. What was his name?
Drew Weatherford. He's now the chair of the board of trustees.
Well, there you go.
Well, I'm sorry. He's not the chair yet. He's a trustee, but he'll be the chair someday.
Nice. I had Steven Garcia, who is every once in a while get on his Instagram and he's showing his ass, like literally, or doing something else crazy. But he's down there.
But you know what he did in 2010, Anwar?
What's that?
He led those South Carolina Gamecocks to a win against Alabama.
That's all he has to do to get free drinks for the rest of his life in South Carolina. I'm sure Beamer loves it whenever he shows up there. So yes, I did get that. I did. Steven was my claim to fame. A little Lydell Ross, but Steven was my guy.
Gaither High School, a Gaither Cowboy. Wow.
Take it back to some of my standout. Bubba Caldwell,
Jefferson Dragon.
Yeah. So we go back a long time, but we are here now together. All right, so real quick, before we get into the subjects, okay? Real quick. It's your boy here. Tell me everything I need to know about Shannon Terry, right? What do I need to know about Shannon Terry?
Ask Ketch. He's been in this world a lot longer than I have.
I'm asking you. I know what Ketch has told me.
Yeah. Hey, kick ass and you're rewarded. Don't, you're not. That's the rules around here.
Hey, well, that's fair enough. Well, that's easy enough. That's better than some of the managers that we had at the Tampa Tribune where
yes,
it's kind of hard to know what to actually do and when to actually
do. Half of them were selling real estate in their spare time, which wasn't really their spare time. So
well, let's talk football, Andy. You just came out with, and I love it. Like I love seeing Andy being big time and everything like that. But you came out kind of with your top 25 recently. I'm going to put it on the screen. You had a team up here that we're kind of familiar with Texas. Give me an idea. I'm just going to let you take the floor. Give me an idea of why Texas was number one, and then maybe give me some of the other teams that we can get into that you want to talk about.
So the Texas number one thing, it's a vote for Arch being good, which I think is not I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb there, because I think the fact of the matter is, and we like the Quinn Ewers draft position created this debate again, and I'm sure you guys had it all last week too, where people are saying, well, it either means that Arch isn't that good or Sark messed up by not starting him over Quinn. I think it's a little more nuanced than that, and you know that, Anwar. But I do think the guy's going to be good. I am very heartened by the fact that Texas did not go headlong into the portal for offensive linemen, because that tells me they like the guys that have been in the pipeline. They feel like Kyle Flood's been developing them well. And I think if you look at what he did with the last crew, which was a bunch of homegrown recruits that they signed out of high school, Like it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And then obviously you love the potential of Ryan Wingo, of DeAndre Moore. And, you go on the other side of the ball, what Colin Simmons and Ant Hill can be. So like, I'm not worried about them being good. I know they're going to be good. The only even position group that I would even be slightly concerned about is interior defensive line, because they clearly went deep into the portal for that group. Even got my guy Hero Canoe, the Bavarian Barbarian from Ohio State, who I wrote about before he'd even come to America when he was still in Germany. Back when I was at the Athletic.
You gotta tell quickly, what's the story behind him? I don't think most Texas fans are familiar.
So Hero was found by a guy named Brandon Collier, who is he's a former football player who lives in Germany now and scouts Europe and finds these guys that have these body types. Some of them actually play football. Like in Germany, they play American football. They like it a lot. There are leagues and stuff. But in other countries, he's just looking for certain body types, like at track meets or at basketball games, and saying, hey, would you consider playing American football? You probably could do well. And Hero is one of the people he saw. And then, so Hero ended up coming to the States, going to California for his last year of high school and playing out there, and was obviously very good. He got a scholarship to Ohio State and had, lots of different offers. And he was, in the rotation at Ohio State, but probably wasn't going to be starting this year. So that he went to the portal. But he was funny. Like, I remember for the first time I talked to him, he's like, I got to have my Bavarian pretzels. I was like, man, I love this guy. Nothing better than a nice soft pretzel. But yeah, he's actually from the Bavaria region in Germany.
That's awesome. As you know, in Austin, there's a little something for everybody. I'm sure he's found a home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that interior D line part is the only one they really dove into the portal forward. So it's the only one that, if you thinking logically here, that they felt like they didn't already have on the roster. And I'm a firm believer that to win national championships, you fill holes through the portal. You don't build teams through the portal. And Texas is just filling holes here. Texas has built the team through high school recruiting. And I think the thing about Texas that you have confidence in now is they're creating NFL players now. Like, that was the biggest problem for Texas for 10 years is they were taking in these 4 and 5-star recruits and not pumping out NFL players. Now they're pumping out first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks. Like, they are pumping out good quality NFL players, which that's how you win national titles. It's not how many 5-stars you sign. It's how many guys are going to get drafted and where are they going to get drafted.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, right? And so, but what's interesting though, like, as you said, like the development, Stark has done double digits in the draft, the past couple of years. And, next year could potentially be even more guys. The one thing that you know this well, and I want to get your opinion on it. The one thing that Alabama used to always do so well would be kind of plug and play, right? Lose a ton of guys to the NFL draft, and guess what? The next guys come in, they don't really skip a beat. They just keep going on and on and on, right?
And that's harder to do now.
Yeah.
Like, back in the glory days of Alabama, like the greatest recruiting graphic of all time is the one Alabama sent out in, I think it was 2014, but it's a picture of the 2012 defense, and everybody's on an NFL team now, and I think all of them were starting. And then there's a picture of the 2012 offense, and everybody's on an NFL team. Like, that's the best recruiting graphic you can have. But the thing is, Alabama back then, because you had to sit out a year when you transferred, you could have those guys that would sit for 2 years and then blow up in their third year, and then they're gone. I don't know that you're going to see as many. I mean, we were just talking about Arch Manning, but Arch Manning is a bit of a unicorn in this era. It's not as common anymore where somebody's going to sit for 2 years, even at a really good school, because there's some other school that can offer them almost as much money or more money, and they can start, which makes it very hard to sit and not start and take less money.
Yeah. Hard to do. Really, it's too many. There's more options now. And of course, we are talking about an era too back then, which I love sometimes. Andy, when coaches complain about the transfer portal, I'm like, oh, the same group of people that when a kid wanted to transfer, they would say, you can't go here, 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 and you're basically either go JUCO or you're just screwed. Or the same
the Bill Snyder technique, yeah,
or the one my favorite is a walk-on by Baker Mayfield, who was being told where you could not go
right
before they finally relented, right? And so
I remember getting so mad about that. I'm like, just if you're gonna do this to him, give him a freaking scholarship. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. Like so that group, when they complained about the portal, I'm like, cry me a river. I don't.
Yeah, you had your chance to do this in a reasonable fashion, and you couldn't handle the control. You couldn't handle the power.
No, not 100%. So now, Arch, for you, as we've been waiting for the past couple of years, and again, it's so funny because we're in this era, right, of the transfer portal. And he is that unicorn. It's interesting that he can be patient enough to sit, but there's nobody. So many other guys won't be patient to sit. It's like, well, if an Arch Manning can sit and wait his time, I kind of feel like anybody else should be able to do that. I think there's an argument there.
But Arch is getting good, reliable advice that he knows is going to be true.
Sure.
And that's what most of these other guys aren't. Like when your two uncles are two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and say, hey, Arch, we promise if you do it this way, it'll work.
Yeah,
you're probably going to believe that. That's not what most people's parents, family members are saying to them in this process.
Yeah, well, 100%, which is why we know sometimes it gets out of whack. And the saddest thing for me is when guys go into the portal, get bad advice, and then they never end up in a home. And I always feel bad for those guys. What becomes your expectations of Arch now that he is the guy? He'll probably be the face of college football this upcoming season. What becomes your expectations for him going into his first year as a full-time starter?
I mean, I expect him to be very productive and him to lead them into the college football playoff and deep into the college football playoff. Now, it's interesting, though, because you see the last name, and obviously Texas fans know this because they've seen him play quite a bit already. But I don't know that the wider country understands that his game is not like Peyton or Eli's.
Yeah.
Like Cooper Manning, his dad was a wide receiver. And would have been a good wide receiver to Ole Miss, but he hurt his neck. So he was the most athletic of the three Manning brothers.
Yes.
And so Arch is more of a dual threat guy, as evidenced by them using him in a running package last year when Quinn Ewers' ankle was dinged up. Like, I'm excited to see what they build around him. Like what kind of, because he's really fast, except he's also prototypical NFL size and arm strength.
Yeah, he's a freak. In that regard, so when you say that, what's good for you? Like, or like, can you get into the weeds there when you say, okay, I expect him to be good? Does good mean you expect him to be competing for a Heisman? Does good just mean SEC good? Like, what does that mean?
Well, I think you're competing. Listen, if you're the starting quarterback at Texas and you're taking them into the playoff, you are in the Heisman conversation. Mm-hmm. The only way you're not is if the defense is just so dominant that you don't need to score much to win games.
Now, Quinn Ewers wasn't in the Heisman
going to score. This team's going to score.
Yeah, but Quinn wasn't in the Heisman conversation last year, and they went to the playoffs.
Yeah, well, last year's Heisman conversation was weird. Quinn was not a dominant quarterback.
Yeah,
and I don't know there really wasn't a dominant quarterback. I'm glad that we, as the Heisman electorate, picked Travis Hunter because I'm glad we were looking at the totality of it, looking at the other positions. But I still believe if there'd been a dominant quarterback, that guy would have won.
Yeah.
So, I think Arch should be able to put up the kind of numbers that I think. Remember with Quinn also missing 2 games with injury, like for a quarterback to win the Heisman, you do kind of have to stay healthy. I'm trying to think back of the ones that have won it. I think the most anybody's missed is like 1 game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then what's your floor for this team then? Like if this team is going to, and when I mean floor, I mean expectations, right? If this team is going to back-to-back semifinals.
This team's got the lowest floor in the SEC. The highest floor in the SEC for me.
Okay.
Like this is a team that even if things go bad should win 9 games.
That would be disappointing, right? if the floor is 9 for you, right? That's probably the absolute. And I'm assuming that floor would include maybe, or you factor maybe like Ohio State, at Georgia, at Florida, like maybe that goes into that. Then what becomes
Yeah.
what becomes generally what you think would be the outcome in May right now without any games being played?
I think they're going to be a playoff team. I mean, and playing for the SEC championship again. It's they got probably the most favorable draw. Maybe Missouri might have the most favorable draw in the SEC, but they got a favorable draw. Obviously, they have to go to Ohio State. But the thing about it is they're not playing last year's Ohio State. They're playing an Ohio State team day one that is replacing a ton. And I realize Texas is replacing stuff too, but it's a big difference in what Texas has to replace and what Ohio State has to replace. Ohio State is basically an entirely new team with the exception of, oh, by the way, they're bringing back the single best offensive player in the country in Jeremiah Smith and the single best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs.
Not too bad. So
yeah, you can build around that.
Let's give me the other SEC teams in your top 25, Andy, and give me your thoughts on those guys and the Alabamas, the Georgias, the teams that are on the screen.
Yeah, I've got Alabama, Georgia at 7 and 8, and Alabama's a case where I keep looking at that roster and I'm like, I don't think it matters who they pick to play quarterback. They're going to be good. They've got a lot of talent coming back. The defense should be excellent, and then you think with Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator, being reunited with Kalen DeBoer, that the offense will run smoother than it did last year because it was Nick Sheridan was running the offense. It was his first year calling plays, so you think that's going to be fine. Georgia, it's a vote of confidence in their recruiting. But I don't know that they are the stacked super team that they have been. I don't know that they have the level of aliens that they've had like in 2022 and 2021. But I do think they've got good enough players to make the playoff, good enough players to compete for the SEC title. And so my top 8 is Texas, Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, and Georgia. I would not be shocked if any of those 8 teams win the national title. That would not surprise me one bit. Mm-hmm. Other SEC teams I have in the top 25. I have Florida at 10, and that's a vote of confidence in DJ Lagway. I know the Texas fans did not get to see him last year, and sorry about that. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If he's healthy, like that Texas-Florida game could be a lot of fun because DJ has the potential to be the best quarterback in the country this year and potential to be the number 1 pick in the draft, which is interesting because if Arch stays for a 4th year, they're probably coming out the same year. So that would be an interesting little horse race. You could have some fun with that one down the stretch. But Lagway's if you go back and watch Florida against LSU and Florida against Ole Miss last year at the end of the season when he was fully the starter, and the LSU game he's playing on one leg because he still had the hamstring injury that kept him out of the Texas game, but he can layer the ball in ways that you didn't see freshmen usually able to do. He's got a very strong arm. When he's fully mobile, he can move around a lot. Like you saw that more in the Ole Miss game. So I'm very interested to see how he develops. Now, he's not been throwing much. He just resumed throwing. He's had a sore shoulder and basically took all the spring off. So we'll see, does he get that kind of bump year 1 to year 2 as a starter that you'd normally get if you have a full offseason? He didn't get that. So, and by the time Texas gets to Gainesville, we're going to know a lot about Florida because they're already going to have played LSU and Miami.
Okay. And then obviously you had 2 more teams there.
I got South Carolina.
Yeah.
I got Auburn. South Carolina, Lenore Sellers I don't even think we've seen anywhere near his ceiling yet. I think he could be really, really good. That's a guy the NFL scouts are all watching this year. Potential first overall pick in the draft type player. And they've got some premium talent on both sides of the ball at South Carolina. So like that, if you play the video game, you already know who Nick Harbor is. Like if he ever lives up to his recruiting hype / video game awesomeness, that's a scary thought because it's like a 6'4", 230-pound receiver who's a world-class runner. So, and then Auburn is an interesting one because that's the one I think most people are mad at me for putting in there, and I got them at like 13. They lost a bunch of close games last year. We know why. It was quarterback play. They got better receivers. Like they have Cam Coleman, who sort of came on at the end of last year as a freshman. And remember, it was, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, the two that immediately popped. And then, as the Texas fans know, Ryan Wingo, Cam Coleman are the other two big time receivers in that class. And you saw the flashes of potential from those guys, but did not see them completely break out the way you did Smith and Williams. But I expect Cam Coleman to be really good this year. And then they went and got Eric Singleton Jr. from Georgia Tech. And then, oh, by the way, they've got Keldrick Falk, who's one of the best pass rushers in the country. Like, Auburn's going to be good. And if they get a little bit better quarterback play, which we're assuming it's Jackson Arnold, and Texas fans are like, well, we saw Jackson Arnold. That not great. But you saw Jackson Arnold with a not great offensive line and a bunch of hurt receivers. Auburn's going to have a decent offensive line, decent to good, above average offensive line, and very good receivers. So I'm excited to see what they are, because they were just kind of a few bounces of the ball or one just crippling interception away from winning a few of those games last year. You flip those results, and all of a sudden, that's a pretty good team that is actually somewhat competitive for the playoff.
So I'm going to make a comment, and then I got one more question before I let you out of here. My comment is this. As a guy who did the NFL for years, Andy, the GM that tells his owner, hey, I know Arch Manning is on the board, but hear me out. I like DJ Lagway a little bit better. That GM will be fired. There's no owner who's going to
onward. They're going to play each other. We're going to have evidence. Like, we're going to see.
I'm going to give you better evidence than that, Andy. Owners like to make money. Okay, there's no NFL owner.
I don't. This is not going to be a Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf decision.
There's no owner, Andy, who's going to say, I can make more sponsorship money, more corporate money. I can raise season ticket prices, merchandise sales, be on TV more with this guy as Art, but with some other guy who you think is more of a polished product. NFL teams want to make money.
Listen, Anwar, I'm excited. That's why I brought this up, because you could see these two in a Heisman race. You could see these two in the draft discourse. Like, it will be, if both of them stay healthy and reach their potential at their schools, it's going to be so much fun to see.
It's going to be fun. I'm just saying, when it's time to go to the draft, Andy, there's no billionaire is going to say, I don't want to make more money.
No faith in the QB from Texas. I see how it is. Taking the guy from New Orleans over the dude from Willis, Texas. I see how it is.
I'm saying Arch is the #1 overall pick whenever he comes out for the NFL draft. I don't care if it's this next year or the following year. Talent.
Well, if it's next year, there's no competition. Like, if he leaves after this season, DJ's got another year in college.
Yes,
then it's Arch versus Lenora Sellers. So
either way is good. All right. The two other teams Texas fans will be interested in: Oklahoma, A&M, not in your top 25. Now, Andy, I don't mind making Oklahoma fans mad. It's okay. I've said
I don't think I'm going to make them mad.
No. What I'm going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I say the best thing that can happen to Oklahoma in 2025 is when they fire their head coach and hire a new one, because then they get to hit the restart button. Might be a little harsh, and then and Texas A&M is still building. So your thoughts on Oklahoma, where they are as a program, and then A&M as they still continue to build?
I left Oklahoma out of the top 25 only because I'm really not sure what their offensive line is going to be. I think it's going to be better than last year, but that's a pretty low bar. Like, how much better than last year are we talking about? Because it's going to have to be significantly better than last year for them to be competitive against this schedule. Now, I think John Mateer is going to be the most impactful transfer in the country this year. I really loved watching him play at Washington State. They made a lazy hire when Jeff Lebby left to be Mississippi State's head coach. They made a lazy OC hire that blew up in their face. They also had punted on the 2021 and 2022 offensive line classes, which Texas cleaned house in, and you saw the results of that in the Cotton Bowl last year. I think they've done a good job getting receivers out of the portal. Like I said, I love Mateer, but I need to see how well they block. I have faith in Brent Venables' defense to be decent. Like, that part I'm not worried about. But listen to this final 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Texas and Dallas, At South Carolina, Ole Miss comes to Norman. At Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri comes to Norman. LSU comes to Norman. That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. So even if they're significantly better than last year, they could still be looking at a 7-5 season, which is not what they want.
Yeah. And A&M?
A&M is the agent of chaos. A&M can screw up everybody's season if they want to. Like it's crazy if you look at where they are, not just on the schedule, but in the schedule. Like they show up in everybody's schedule kind of when you least want them there. Like they play Florida right after Florida plays Texas. And Florida has to go to Kyle Field. Like, so no matter what happens against like Florida, you've just played LSU and you've played Miami and you have a week off and you play Texas. Like, you're beat up from playing Texas. Whether you want or not, you're still beat up. And now you're going to go to Kyle Field where they're going to try to beat you up some more. Like that, it's a brutal spot. And it feels like A&M is in that spot because they've got Auburn early. Like, they could mess up Auburn's season. They could get Sam Pittman fired when they play Arkansas. They could really wreck Brian Kelly's world. Like, let's say Brian Kelly loses to Clemson and Florida. Well, by October 25th, you're playing Texas A&M. You don't want to be playing them right there. That's a bad spot.
Yeah. All right, Andy, everyone knows how to find you. Just in case someone's been under a rock, which, gosh, sometimes I get thrown off when I get some, like, I see a notification about a Texas fan who follows me. I'm like, where have you been for like a decade plus? Like, but anyway,
exactly.
But
you're
anyway,
a fixture
Andy,
now.
Yeah, but who? How can they find you? Tell them all the good stuff that you got going on, podcasts, all those kind of things. Just give everybody the deets.
So at Andy_Staples on Twitter and Instagram, and then on3.com. So you can read my stuff there. We've got a show every day that's on the On3 Sports YouTube page. It's live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 Central every day. But it also, you don't have to watch it live. You can watch it on demand on YouTube, or you can listen anywhere you get your podcast if you don't want to actually look at me, which I don't blame you.
And look, Andy, we'll lean on you more because when Texas has road games, the thing that we're going to want to know is where we're going to go to eat.
Where we eating? That's right.
Right. And Andy's a food connoisseur, right? So I'm going to need to know where I'm eating at in Columbus, Gainesville, Lexington, Starkville, and Athens. Like, so get the list going, Andy, because we're going to.
Oh, it's you got some good ones this year. Like, because I know what Texas fans, Starkville. There's nowhere good to eat in Starkville. Oh yeah, no. Okay. There's some good spots. There's a little barbecue place. There's a good coffee shop. There's a place called WTF, Where to Food At. That was Mike Leach's favorite spot.
Yeah,
when he was the coach there. So,
have you ever done an SEC food bracket, Andy?
Not a bracket. I've done the whole list of like places I recommend across the country. I did that back at the Athletic. The problem is I've got to redo it because unfortunately the pandemic did a number on some of these places. And so a lot of them didn't survive the pandemic. So, and then of course there's new places have opened up, but yeah, we've got to, I'm just starting to repopulate that list myself. So I need to come visit you and see what's popped up in Austin since the last time I was there. Because listen, it never stops there.
No, there's always something new. And you know, the crazy thing, Andy, I've never been to Norman. So I've never been there because they play in Dallas every year. So I've actually never had.
Well, if you do find yourself in Norman, like let's say you're helping out with basketball or something and you get to go to a basketball game there, morning of or morning after, there's a place called Neighborhood Jam. Great breakfast brunch spot.
Okay. All right. Andy Staples, I appreciate you. It's good to see you again. We'll definitely be catching up in the future. Thank you so much for coming on, my dude.
Thank you, Amor.